This is only a suggested plan. This is not written in any law. Most advantages and benefits for the future are not written in law. There's no law that says you must not have a heart attack. Where is it written? There is no law. That you must demand of yourself. There is no demand that you have a good financial plan that'll safely take care of your family for the future. There is no law. You could be careless and lose it all and finally have to be supported by the state. So there is no law that you must be responsible and have a good financial plan. You must demand it of yourself. So I'm asking you to make that note. It's what we demand of ourselves that counts. There's no law that says you must have a health plan that's going to make you extremely healthy for the next 10 years. There is no law. That you must demand of yourself. And those are the disciplines now that really start to count, the ones you demand of yourself. So, next, keep strict accounts. Keep strict accounts. Have you ever heard this expression? I don't know where it all goes. Did you ever hear that? Oh, we'd love to have you run our company. You don't know where it all goes. Did you ever hear this? It just gets away from me. Oh, we'd love to have you run the world. It just gets away from you? Okay. Will you make the note now? Keep strict accounts. This is for your own self-esteem, as well as safety and financial matters for the future. Keep strict accounts. You've got to do it, for the IRS. You've got to do it for the tax bill that comes due. Then there's one more. Be happy to pay your taxes. And this is an assignment that's one of the toughest. I'm trying to finish this book I've been working on for so long. Hopefully I'll get it done one of these days. And the title is, Of Course Kids Should Pay Taxes. And it's a little book on really everybody should pay taxes. And then you need to know why. In California, if a 10-year-old walks into 7-Eleven and buys something that costs $1, the proprietor asks the child for 8 more pennies. Does the child have a right to know how come we're asking him for 8 more pennies? And the answer is yes. The kid says, I'm only 10 years old. And the proprietor says, congratulations, you're my youngest taxpayer. Now the kid wants to know, who gets these 8 pennies? Where does it go? And here's what the proprietor, if he's wise, says. Well, if you want to ride your bicycle on the sidewalk instead of in the mud, you have to pay the 8 pennies. Everybody pays the 8 pennies on every dollar, so that we have streets and we have a sidewalk. So you don't have to ride your bicycle in the dirt and the mud, you got the sidewalk. And now the child understands, okay, here's my 8 pennies. So jot this down now. Everybody has to pay. We can't let anybody off the hook, because all of us are in this together. And you can't build your own section of the street out in front of your home. What kind of equipment would you need to build your own piece of the street out in front of your house? No, you can't do that. So we take these collective needs that all of us need, and we ante up the money, whether it's federal or state or sales tax or whatever it is, so that all of this is taken care of us. Here's what it's called: the care and feeding of the goose that lays the golden eggs. You say, well, the goose eats too much. That's probably true. But make this note: better a fat goose than no goose at all. So everybody has to pay. How much do you think aircraft carriers cost? And we can't use used missiles. Here's where else the money goes. So you'll be safe in your bed at night while the policeman walks the beat. While we sleep, the Air Force doesn't sleep. While we sleep, the Army doesn't sleep. While we sleep, the policeman walks the beat and checks the doors. That's where the money goes. Once you have a vision of where the money goes, yes, for some things it costs too much. Yes, the government sometimes is too extravagant. Yes, all the yeses. But all those yeses are true for all of us. Sure, the goose might eat too much, but who doesn't? Should we have confession time here today? Say, no. Please let me off the hook. So you got to do the same with the government. Yes, the government needs to go on a diet and slim down and not spend quite so much. That's also true. But it's true of what? All of us. This is the deal. We're in all of this thing together. So finally, when I understood what this was all about, I finally became a very strange creature called a happy taxpayer. That's it. Now, should everybody pay? Let me give you one good illustration that comes from the Bible, and I'm finished. Jesus one day, and I'm an amateur on the Bible, but here's a classic story. The storyteller says, Jesus one day was out in front of the synagogue watching people come in, and with him were his disciples. So Jesus and his disciples are watching people come in to the synagogue. And the custom was, before they came into the synagogue, they deposited a contribution. They deposited the contribution, went on into the church. The story says some came with large contributions and went in. Some came with small contributions and went in. And as the disciples and Jesus watched, a little lady came along and she put 2 pennies in the treasury and walked in. And Jesus said, "Look at that." And his disciples said, 2 pennies, 2 pennies, what's 2 pennies? He said, "No, you don't understand. She gave more than everybody else." They said, 2 pennies is more than everybody else? He said, "Yes, because I'm sure that 2 pennies represented almost all of what she had." So since her 2 pennies represented almost all of what she had, she gave the most. What a classic philosophy. Now here's what did not occur. I'm so brilliant, I can give you what the storyteller left out. Here's what did not occur in this little scene. When the little lady put her 2 pennies in the treasury, Jesus and his disciples did not run after her and say, "Hey, hold it, little lady. Hold it, little lady. We've observed what's happened with putting the 2 pennies in the treasury, and we've decided that you're so pitiful and you're so poor that we've decided to give you back your 2 pennies." I'm here to tell you that did not occur. So make this note from this little story. Jesus left her 2 pennies in the treasury, even though it was most of what she had. Wow. That's such a classic lesson in philosophy. That's such a classic lesson in what all of us are involved in making contributions. Shouldn't everybody wish to pay? The government has decided to leave some people that they consider poor and pitiful off the tax rolls. See, that's unthinkable. Shouldn't they, even if they only paid $1, so that they can be able to say what? I pay. I make my contribution. No matter how poor I am, if all I've got's pennies, I give some as contribution. Whether it's taxes or whether it's benevolence or whatever it is. Okay, isn't that a great story? It's a good story. Okay, now to finish up, in the next 20 minutes, let's talk about leadership. Wish we had a week. I've got all this stuff here. Anyway, perhaps we'll do this again. Leadership. I got a good phrase for you now on leadership to start with. Here it is. To attract attractive people, you must be attractive. We keep coming back to the same central theme. Personal development is the key to the better future. Success is something you attract. And to attract attractive people, you must be attractive. To attract dedicated people, what? You must be dedicated. To attract positive people, you must be positive. To attract loyal people, you must be loyal. To attract gifted people, you must be gifted. To attract sincere people, you must be sincere. It's a matter of attracting the people you want. That's really the key to leadership. Next, leadership is the big challenge of the 80s. Science, politics, industry, education, sales. Here's one of the most important leadership roles in the future: parenting. Parenting, mother and father. Or sometimes a single father or a single mother that has to be both mother and father. This is such an incredible challenge. Guess who the great heroes are in our country? Teachers and single mothers. I can't imagine the job. It's almost too tough to imagine. I was coming back once from San Diego back to Los Angeles, and it was 1 o'clock. I'd been to a very late meeting. I stopped by Denny's. 24-hour coffee shop was open. I stopped by Denny's. It's 1 o'clock in the morning, and I walk in to have a little something, piece of pie I think it was, and a cup of coffee. And at Denny's at 1 o'clock in the morning was the Avon lady. And she had a couple of waitresses around her, and she was showing the Avon products. 1 o'clock in the morning. When I finished my pie and coffee, I engaged her in conversation. I said, I have never seen an Avon lady at Denny's at 1 o'clock in the morning. She says, well, this is the best time. When the waitresses aren't so busy, and one at a time or two at a time, they can come and sit at my table, look at what I've got, and make purchases. I says, why do you do this? And she said, I'm a single mother with 2 children. Don't have to say any more, right? 1 o'clock in the morning at Denny's. This is called commitment of the best kind, right? Wow, these are the heroes. People that have such extraordinary circumstances to have to deal with, and they do it. They have such responsibility, and they do it. Right? They're stacked high with, difficulties, and they do it. They do it. Especially mothers. So the challenge is parenting, leadership in parenting. Here's the next challenge in leadership. To step above mediocrity, where you can not only help yourself, but help someone else. Now, here's the refinement of leadership skills. This is a good list to make. Be strong, but not rude. Be kind, but not weak. Strength we need, rudeness we don't need. Kindness we need, but not weakness. Some people mistake weakness for kindness. But don't do that for yourself. Next is to be bold, but not a bully. Refinement of leadership skills. Next is to be humble, but not timid. Humility we need. Timidity you must overcome. Drive it into a small corner. Don't let it dominate your life, whatever you have to do. Next is to be thoughtful but not lazy. Here's a good one. To be proud but not arrogant. Pride we need, arrogance we don't need. Family pride, personal pride, community pride, school pride, team pride. We do need pride, but not arrogance. Next is humor without folly. This is part of sophistication everybody needs to work for. humor without folly, witty but not silly, these combinations are sometimes really difficult to pull off. Here's what the old prophet said. This is a good one for your notes. Be as wise as a serpent and as harmless as a dove. How to be both wise and harmless. See, that takes some real doing. Most wise people are not that harmless, and most harmless people are not that wise. But the real challenge is to be both wise and harmless. One of the writer of New Testament said, I've learned to be both ambitious and content. Now that is a real stretch. But here was his solution: to be content with what you've achieved and ambitious for more. Right? To engage in contentment with what you, if you're always discontented with what you've achieved or what you have, see that is the wrong malady. But if you're happy with what you've achieved, but ambitious for more, that's the key. Most ambitious people are not that content, and most content people are not that ambitious. But he said, here's what to strive for: to be both ambitious and content, to be both wise and harmless. Next, in leadership. Here's the major studies for leadership as you continue your journey. Number one, the study of possibilities. Play the what-if game. What if I had the resources to make the investment so my family would be secure and I had reached financial independence? What if? If you engage in the what-if game for the future, what if I took these extra classes? What if I developed these extra skills? What if I really disciplined myself to do more than I've ever done before? What could possibly be the outcome? Engage in that what-if game. What if I found the right people over the next 6 months? What could I possibly accomplish that I haven't accomplished so far? This is good, the what-if game. When I found an unusual financial opportunity, the first night I played the what-if game. By 3 in the morning, I'd made about $3 million. On paper. On paper. But jot this down, that's where it starts. What if I had 2? What if I had 5? What if I had 5 and they each had 5 and we all worked together for this common cause? What could we accomplish? Wow, just play the what-if game. Then that saves you from later having to play this game. If I'd only kept that piece of property instead of selling it. Years and years ago, I owned 10 acres in Carefree, Arizona. I bought it for $50,000, and I sold it for $80,000. I made $30,000. Here's what was tragic. I didn't need to sell it. It is now worth probably over $1 million. So now I say, if I'd only. But we need some of those experiences, right, to help give us a little better guidance for the future. So play the what-if game, right? What if it went well? What if I found the right people? What if I had the health and the ability to do extraordinary things? I wonder what all I could do. Play that game. The study of possibility. Here's the next one, the study of opportunity. And you must learn to study opportunity because it comes in subtle forms. I got interested in building organization and recruiting people because I found out people could make you rich and wealthy. Here's one of the greatest economic mistakes anyone can make, especially living in America, not understanding that people can make you rich. When I found the opportunity to do that, it helped me make my first fortune. Recognizing opportunity so that it doesn't come and go. The moment was there and you didn't seize the moment. Begin to recognize more opportunity. The opportunity for association. All of my projects have been association, 2, 3 people. Right? The old phrase says if 2 or 3 agree, nothing's impossible. Just not 2 or 300, not 2 or 3,000, just 2 or 3. with a common purpose. You can do the most extraordinary things. Recognize those opportunities. Here's the next. Be a student of ability. If you added one more skill and then one more skill. I started learning extra skills when I was 25 years old, when I met my mentor. One skill led to the next, and one skill led to the next. Finally, my income reached unbelievable proportions, having learned these skills. By the time I was 29 years old, my income had hit about $30,000 a month, which back in those days was so much money. It was unbelievable. I learned those extra abilities, those extra skills. I had no idea when I started how it would compound my income and change my whole financial life and financial future. So have you got that now? Be a student of ability. What if you took on one more skill and then took on one more skill? Next, be a student of inevitability, which is called consequences that you don't want to suffer. If you have a poor diet, it doesn't take that long for the early signs to appear. And if you keep it up, it doesn't take long for the serious signs to appear. The consequences are too deadly. We must be students of inevitability. Yes, inevitability on the positive side, but most of us, can do that. But we must also study inevitability on the negative side. Consequences. If you're in a little boat on the River Niagara, on a little boat with no motor and no oars, and you're 100 feet from the falls, it's called inevitable. It's over. Somebody should have painted you that scene way upstream so that you wouldn't find yourself in such an inevitable position. Right? It's over before you reach the falls in a little boat with no motor and no oars 100 feet away. Now here's the next one. Be a student of rationality. Be able to put everything through your own mind and your own thinking process. Challenge yourself to think constructively. Here's the next one. Challenge yourself to do some new thinking. I think it was Einstein who said, the real challenge is how can we use the same thinking that caused the problems now to come up with the answers? So here's what we have to do. Shift gears into some new areas of thinking, new ways of thinking how to solve problems. Not the old thinking that caused the problems, the new style of thinking that creates the answers. Rationality also means, yes, be optimistic, but also be a realist. Here's how it really is. Here's how it could be. Here are the possibilities, but here's how it really is. Take input, but not orders. Abraham Lincoln said, "Since I would be no one's slave, I will be no one's master." Be no one's slave. Take input, yes. Take advice, yes. Gather in information, yes. And then you decide. Now make this little list. This is a good list. 5 sources of inspiration. Number 1, deciding. Maybe some of you this weekend have engaged in the decision-making process that is going to send you home with a new phase of inspiration in your life to start making whatever changes you need to make, amend the errors in disciplines and judgments. Deciding is so exciting once you've decided, especially those major decisions that you know are going to have an outcome in spite of anything that can happen. Especially if you decide it like this: no matter what. See, that is, you can't believe how Self-confidence and self-esteem starts to serve you well when you start to say, no matter what. Here's the next source of inspiration. Planning what you've decided. Just start laying it out. Here's my new health plan. I'm going to do this, 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 and this, and this. Here's my new financial plan. I'm going to do this, this, and this, and this. My relationship is in a bit of disrepair. I've decided to do this, 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 and this. Just decide and lay out some plans, because decision starts the inspiration process, and planning furthers the inspiration. Here's the next source of inspiration, beginning the plan, getting started. I taught this a long time ago. I haven't for a long time. An apple a day could start the process of changing your life. Number one, deciding that it's a good thing to do. Number one, before the day is over, to eat the first apple. And especially by the time you've reached the second and the third day, here's what you can say: I'm on a new track. And it's only 3 apples. I'm never going back to the old ways. Munch, munch, munch. Third day. You could be inspired starting the third day by deciding, first apple, second day, apple, and you can say, hey, I've got this down. This is going to do it for me. And it can be just that simple. Life-changing decisions, making plans, getting started, following through. Doesn't have to be something profound. You don't have to build a city to get inspired, or to prove to somebody, or especially to prove to yourself, that you're on a better track. You're now walking a better path, and the outcome is going to be dramatic and powerful. Key. So then that's the next one. The first source is deciding, the next one is planning, the next one is beginning. Here's the next one: progressing, staying at it. By the time you've finished that first week on a new plan, you'll be so excited. By the time you finish the first 30 days on a new financial plan, regardless how little the progress, the inspiration will continue to grow. Your self-esteem will soar. Then, of course, here's the fifth source of inspiration, and that's finally achieving. Not achieving everything. We cannot do that. We can't achieve everything at once. But we can work on this project and achieve that. Work on the next project and achieve that. We set up this goal and we achieve that. We set up a production goal and we hit it. We set up a goal to increase our income. Within 90 days we had arrived at that new figure. Achieving. Wow. Now, in your development as a leader, make these good notes. Learn the law of faith. The law of faith is very simple. Here's what it says: with faith, everything's possible. Without faith, nothing is possible. Faith is the ability to see what doesn't yet exist. Faith is the ability to believe that it's possible. Faith is not like tangible, but it is so close to real, we call it a piece of the real. One writer called it evidence. One writer called it substance of something hoped for. Faith. Imagination mixed with faith. Now, as a leader, no telling what you can accomplish. As a father, no telling what you can build. When I built my first house for my family in Idaho all those years ago, I used to take friends of mine out to the vacant lot and show them through the house. Is that possible? Sure. Yes, of course. I used to say, here's the 3-car garage. And they would look and say, yeah, this will hold 3 cars. The house that wasn't there, I described it so well they could see it. I could see it. Isn't that what the artist does, that puts together the artist's rendering and says, this is the house that isn't there? Say, no, the house isn't there. Say, no, yes, this is the house. So I'd take, my friends on a little journey through the house. This is the fireplace. It's got bricks on one side and it's got white stone on the other side. They would say, wow, what a fireplace. And I'd take them through the bedrooms, the whole thing. Here's this kitchen with a view window. In the kitchen where you can see this incredible view. And they would look out the window. I described that house